Chris Johnson, Canadian bass angler, and I've been very fortunate over the past 10 or 15 years of my career. I've actually made fishing a full-time job, and I've been very fortunate enough to fish across many different fisheries, from Florida to Texas, anywhere in Canada, and I grew up here in Ontario. And I'm going to take a second to tell you about the 3 best smallmouth fisheries in Ontario and arguably North America. Lake Simcoe is going to be my number 3 pick in Ontario for the top smallmouth bass fisheries. The reason why, it's got great size of smallmouth. It used to have abundance of, you catch lots of 3 to 5 pound fish. Now it seems like the fishing's a little tougher to catch numbers, but the fish have gotten even bigger, and people are catching 5, 6, 7 pound bass, and in the fall they're even getting some 7, 8 pound bass. So this fishery is definitely one to check out, and you're not going to catch a ton of fish anymore, but the size is going to be there. All right, number 2 on my list, I'm going to go with Lake St. Clair. Borders Ontario and Detroit, Michigan border, and this place has got the numbers of fish. For someone that wants to go out and have those 40, 50 fish smallmouth bass days, this is the place to do it. And to be honest, it used to have a lot of 2 to 4 pound bass, and this fishery, I think they've gotten bigger. I don't know if it's due to the recent invasion of gobies, but their diet has gotten better and the fish just keep getting bigger. It also could have something to do with our longer growing season. Our summers have warmed up. We're getting more growing season for the smallmouth bass. They're feeding up later in the year because it's not as cold, and they're just bigger, and there's a lot of 4 to 6 pound bass being caught at Lake St. Clair. And the difference between Lake St. Clair and a place like Lake Simcoe, St. Clair is pretty clear, but the fish are out deeper, usually in about 15 to 20 feet, and they're relating to grass. And all the forage is usually perch, shad, or crawfish, and everything is relating to the grass though. So these fish move and migrate with the bait, and you just got to follow them. And when you find them, there's usually grouped up into 50, 100 bass groups, and you're gonna have some fun. All right, it's no secret, the number 1 smallmouth fishery in Ontario right now has to be Thousand Islands, Lake Ontario region. It's got giant smallmouth bass, and it's got the numbers. It's nothing to go out there and catch 30 to 60 bass a day, and the average size is probably gonna be 4 to 6 pounds. This fishery was ranked last year in North America the number 1 fishery out of anything, largemouth smallmouth, and we're lucky enough to have it here in Ontario, right in our backyard. If you ever get a chance to go out there and experience it, you got to do it while it's still fishing good. But in saying that, while it's fishing good, there is something that threatens these smallmouth bass fisheries here in Ontario, and it's the threat of an invasive species called a grass carp, and I'm going to go into a little more detail and tell you about that. Grass carp were introduced to North America in the 1970s for use as biological control in aquaculture facilities. The spread of grass carp has largely been the result of intentional stockings into lake control aquatic plants. There are currently no established populations of grass carp in the Canadian waters of the Great Lakes. However, researchers have found evidence of grass carp reproduction in 2 U.S. tributaries of Lake Erie, making grass carp an immediate threat to the Canadian waters of the Great Lakes. Grass carp can eat up to 40% of their own body weight in aquatic plants and reach up to 5 feet long and more than 80 pounds in weight. Just 10 grass carp per hectare can reduce aquatic vegetation by 50%. This is a huge threat to native fish of the Great Lakes, such as smallmouth bass. Due to the voracious diet of grass carp, they have the ability to outcompete many native species and organisms for resources. This could dramatically alter the food web that smallmouth bass rely on as top predators. When this gets altered, our smallmouth fishery can see declining fish sizes and numbers. As anglers, it's important that we learn to identify and report any suspected sightings of grass carp. Grass carp lack barbels, have eyes in the middle of their head, and a short dorsal fin. These features, along with some common lookalikes, can be found on the grass carp identification and reporting sheet that is available for you on download at asiancarp.ca. If you go through the fact sheet and you are confident you have captured a grass carp in Ontario waters, take a photo, note your location, and report it to Invading Species Hotline or EDD MAPS. Do not release the fish, kill, gut, and keep the fish in a cooler with its head above the ice so it can be collected upon reporting. If you need any more information, please visit www.asiancarp.ca.